Temperance, fortitude, prudence, justice. This is to certify that our worthy brother entered, apprentice passed to fellow craft raised to the sublime degree of Master Mason, and is a member of number at and we recommend him to all brothers and fellows wherever dispersed. Commandery of Knights Templar, Consistory of Sublime Princes of the Royal Secret, Lodge of Perfection, Council Chapter, Council of Royal and Select Masters, Chapter of Royal Archmasons, York Rite, Ancient Accepted Scottish Rite. Masonic record of brother, initiated, entered apprentice, passed fellow craft, raised Master Mason. This shows that our worthy companion, name Mark Master, past Master, most excellent Master, Royal Archmason, admitted to the rewards and honors of a Royal Master, Select Master, Super Excellent Master. Knights Templar, this attests that Sir Knight was constituted and created. Knights of the Red Cross constituted, created, and dubbed a Knight of Malta and finally constituted a Knight Templar in Commandery number KT stationed at Recorder Masonic Presidents: George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, James Monroe, Andrew Jackson, James Knox Polk, James Buchanan, Andrew Johnson, James Garfield, William McKinley, Theodore Roosevelt, William Howard Taft, Warren Harding, Franklin D. Roosevelt, and Harry S. Truman. George Washington. Masons throughout the world, and especially in America, are justifiably proud of the fact that George Washington, first in war, first in peace, first in the hearts of the nation, and the illustrious first President of the United States of America, was a notable leader in Freemasonry. He was the chartered worshipful master of the lodge in Alexandria, Virginia, now the Alexandria Washington Lodge number 22. He continued to fill this high position during his tenure of office as President of the United States. In Masonic circles of America, the memory of no man is more highly revered than that of George Washington. Henry Price, first Grand Master of North American Colonies. Henry Price received a deputation as Provincial Grand Master of New England, which was issued on April 30th, 1733, by Viscount Montague, Grand Master of England. On July 30th of the same year, Price organized a provincial Grand Lodge embracing the New England colonies of America. He is generally regarded as the founder of Masonry on the American continent. For more than 40 years, he was actively devoted to the promotion of Freemasonry in the American colonies. The success of his labors and of those associated with him is evident from the fact that nearly all the leaders of the American Revolution were prominent Masons. Henry Price was born in England about the year 1697 and died in Massachusetts in 1780. A highly laudatory memoir to Henry Price appears in the Proceedings of the Grand Lodge of Massachusetts for the year 1871, prepared by William Sewell Gardner. Freemasonry and the Holy Bible. Introduction. Friends and foes of Freemasonry agree that the institution is ancient in the sense that it has existed from time immemorial. In fact, the precise origin of Freemasonry is yet to be ascertained, as the early records are lost. Much of its ritual and many of its symbols passed on from one generation to another largely by means of oral repetitions, instructions, and lectures, have all the marks of antiquity. Some of the legends of Freemasonry carry us back into antediluvian history, back to the days of Enoch. Others have to do with the patriarchal days of Israel's history, with Moses and with Israel's early history and the occupation of the Holy Land. The ritual and symbols are replete with the days of King Solomon of Israel and the building of the temple. Like all other civilizing institutions of history, Freemasonry has passed through periods of suppression and darkness, and at times was completely lost in historical records, even though it may have been kept alive and perpetuated by secret agencies and in caves of underground activities. It is contended by Freemasons themselves that the institution has been honorable from time immemorial. This contention is freely acknowledged by most students of history, by men of leadership in world affairs, by men of letters who have not enjoyed the privileges of inside information concerning the mysteries, tenets, principles, symbols, and legends of the institution. It is almost universally recognized that men have been and are advanced in morals, elevated in the nobler virtues of life, induced to better living, and endued with high spiritual qualities as a result of membership in the fraternity and through obedience to its principles and precepts. So far as recorded history has been preserved, it is a well-established fact that men of the highest eminence, monarchs, patriots, statesmen, dignitaries in religious and educational institutions, and recognized leaders in every movement for the advance of the race and for the progress of civilization, have counted it both an honor and a privilege to have a place in Freemasonry and to devote their energies to the promotion and security of the fraternity. In fact, membership in the order contributed much to the qualifications and proficiencies of their services to humanity and to society. Many in the early history of Scotland, England, and France are reported with reasonable authenticity to have been Masons. The great majority of the 56 signers of the American Declaration of Independence were Masons. George Washington was famed as a Mason. It is authentically reported that most of the generals in the Revolutionary War were Masons. 15 of the men who have occupied the White House at Washington as presidents have been Masons, and 2 others had proposed to unite with the order, but were overtaken by death before these proposals were carried out. It is generally recognized that originally the principles and rituals of Freemasonry were confined to the Blue Lodge, which included what is now known as Royal Arch Masonry. Dating back to about the 15th century, higher orders and degrees of Freemasonry came into being. Thus, we have today what is commonly known as the York Rite, including Templar Masonry, which belongs quite exclusively to the Christian era and received its greatest impetus during the Crusades. Scottish Rite Masonry consists mostly of an enlargement and development of ancient craft masonry, based upon legends which present an ever-enlarging significance in the application of Freemasonry. There is a succession of allegories of Scottish Rite Masonry, some of them given inside orders, and all of them serving as vehicles for great lessons in philosophy and morality, representing a continuous climb up the slope of the mountain of truth. The York Rite and the Scottish Rite are distinct systems of Freemasonry, but they work harmoniously together and may be regarded in a more general sense as a single fraternity. Membership in the Blue Lodge is necessary for advancement in both of these systems. Referring to the generally accepted claim that Freemasonry is an ancient and honorable institution, there are unmistakable evidences that for centuries prior to the organization of the first Grand Lodge in England, which took place in 1717, there were local lodges of Freemasons scattered throughout England, Scotland, Wales, and Ireland. Documents have been preserved showing that the craft was widely known as far back as AD 926. The ceremonies of hundreds of lodges for some 8 centuries prior to the organization of the Mother Grand Lodge in London, which existed throughout England, Scotland, Wales, and Ireland, were practically identical. It is true also that the rites and ceremonies, the symbols and tenets of Freemasonry, throughout the world today are practically identical with those of these early centuries and the history of those countries. Thus, the antiquity of Freemasonry is sustained by the uniformity which has prevailed for 1,000 years, and which quite certainly prevailed from time immemorial in lodges whose records have been lost. Some unique statements are found in Masonic history by authorities within the fraternity, evidently well-founded by traditions, even though treated as absurdities by many commentators outside the order. Example of these statements may be quoted. Rev. James Anderson, whose writings were published in England in 1723, says that Grandmaster Moses often marshaled the Israelites into a regular and general lodge while in the wilderness. Again, he says that King Solomon was Grandmaster of the Lodge of Jerusalem. In a later work published in 1738, he says that Zerubbabel was provincial Grandmaster in Judah. After referring to noblemen of both England and France as active in Freemasonry, he speaks especially of the activities of England's King Athelstan in Freemasonry at the city of York in AD 926. A goodly number of historical documents relating to Freemasonry dating from the 18th back to the 14th centuries have been preserved in the archives of England. These documents bear testimony to the unbroken perpetuity of Masonic lodges from the earliest periods of English history, to the notable religious, moral, ethical, and elevating character of the institution, to the uniformity of the rites and ceremonies, to the eminence and nobility of many of its adherents, and to the far-reaching influence of Freemasonry, favoring freedom, liberty, justice, and righteousness. Some of these documents record the introduction of Freemasonry into England from Egypt, suggesting that it originated in the country from the Israelites. Others present the idea that Masonic lodges of those earlier periods were composed of both operative and speculative Masons, and that the interest and welfare of operative Masons were prominent in the aims and purposes of the fraternity.